through, I think, probably a good slate of games. We've seen quite a few teams fall from the ranks of the unbeatens. We've seen some teams crawl from basically from out of the cellar into the playoffs, and we've got week 11 to recap. We've got some SSA sprinkled in between, and we've got a whole lot of talk about the playoffs coming up. We're not going to waste any time. We're going to go ahead and jump into it. Guys, a lot of what we've seen so far this year, we've seen a lot of breakout performances. We've seen some programs kind of rise from the ashes. It's been a great year so far, and I'm pretty excited about the playoffs. The reveal comes out tomorrow. We've got brackets, official brackets this time. No more guessing or speculating, but just for your viewing pleasure, we're going to run through some of the numbers once again, just to go over who we think is in and out. There might be some surprises. Hopefully, there won't be. But we've also got some critical news about the playoffs and the Florida Invitational Tournament. Just that we, just for some informational purposes, your team will probably be playing in November, even if it's just for one more week. The invitational tournament has been opened up not only for the rural classifications, but for all classes. Will get a crack at some postseason football. So we're going to go ahead and talk about it. But before we do, we got to recap week number 11. This is the Extra Point. We appreciate everybody who's been rocking with us all year long. Without any further ado, we don't know where Lane Kiffin will be coaching next year. He's going to have a commitment ceremony. There's been all sorts of rumors and all kinds of talk going on, but we leave college football for Saturdays. Right now, it's about high school. We're going to go ahead and jump into it. Week number 11. This is actually new for us because we have the dead period now. We're used to having a hurricane week where it's just been, kind of tradition in the state of Florida where you have to have the season upended by some inclement weather, and then you get a makeup game on a Monday, or a district tournament or a district game on a Tuesday afternoon or a Saturday afternoon. But none of that happened this year. We didn't get any major hurricanes that blew through the state by the grace of God. But we were blessed with this extra bye week now. So we're on par with the state of Georgia. We get a dead period before we start the playoffs on the 14th. It is November the 5th, Wednesday, and this is your week 11 scores. There's a lot to talk about, but a lot of what we saw from I would say some of the better teams in the area. We had a few teams that finished at 9-1, 8-2, but just a great slate of games as we go into the week number 11 recap. Looking at how things unfolded, Mosley, one of the teams that really separated themselves, they finished the year at 9-1, excuse the record. But the Dolphins, took a stumble earlier in the year. Really got surprised by Bay in week number 2, I believe. And man, they turned on they put the business suits on and went to work throughout the rest of the season. Had signature wins against Niceville, and in the regular season finale against Florida High. Florida High, no slouch. Their schedule was absolutely murderer's row. I think they went through probably the gauntlet next to Madison County. I don't know of a team that had a tougher schedule. But the Seminoles fall to Mosley. Mosley finishes the year at 9-1, district champion, signature win over Niceville, and looking at hosting a game for the first round in the playoffs at home with a 26-17 win over Florida High. A lot of what I saw just was Mosley being Mosley, spreading the football around offensively and really taking advantage of some soft spots in the Florida High defense. Seminoles played tough. Nothing to take away from Florida High defense. Just Mosley just really had it going early on in the game.
Well, Mark, once again, these two ended up at the end of the season. Same sort of situation. Mosley only lost one game. That was Bay at the beginning of the season. Coming down to the final game against Florida High, which is I call it walking wounded. They struggled, limped into this final game of the season. Struggled. They lost a lot of good players along the way. They lost a couple of linemen. They lost the quarterback in and out of the lineup. players all over the field hurt, but they managed to. I guess it really was no choice to win the district. They went there with Gaston County, which cannot go to the playoffs, and they were automatic bids. It's only two teams in that district, and they did the best they could. They fought to the end. It wasn't an easy game for Mosley. They had to play, and of course, Florida High is always playing tough. Always a tough team. You can't go in there slacking, as Mosley found out last year. And this year, uh, Florida High fought, but they just didn't have enough. It came down to the last part. They had a chance. I think they had the ball late in the game, but they couldn't get things done. And once again, uh, Mosley had a great season last year, ending the season with two losses, one in Florida High, and then the first round of the playoffs. And this year they avenged that loss.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, Coach. It was a very similar situation to kind of what they had coming into this game last year. Of course, Mosley gets this one at home, but the fast start, as you can see, both of these quick touchdowns, boom, first drive, go get the touchdown, get you a stop, go down, second one, you're up now 2 scores at home, and now you can kind of dictate terms. They had a little bit of a slow start on the road when they were at Florida High, but you saw Wholesome Bake able to kind of get it going early, hit his big targets. He spread it around really well, hitting Halstead and Henson and some of the other guys for some of these big scores. And then Florida High was chipping away, to your point, Coach, but Mosley had enough of that buffer to be able to kind of outlast them this time around. And they did a better job taking care of the football this time around as well.
Yeah, it's so dangerous when you play a team that, on their first offensive drive can sometimes be a pass first and then they just take off. The speed of Mosley, we've talked about it all season long, is definitely something that has benefited this team. And I'm excited for what they're going to be doing in the state playoffs, and I feel like for the past 2, 3 seasons now, we've had our fair share of teams from Panama City wanting to represent that area. And Mosley is definitely that team that wants to be one of those teams that stands out when playoff time comes.
Excuse me, I was
I
on
think
mute.
you're
One of the things that really impressed me with the Dolphins is just throughout the season, their offensive line play has been absolutely stellar. And then you can really tell that the way that they really set the tone in this matchup against Florida High defensively can really show up and shock some people. This is a very physical defense. And I think Mosley, for them, it has just been how do we keep creating opportunities, keeping our quarterback clean, keeping him from getting his jersey dirty, creating some situations where our running backs can find some running lanes, and they're just very methodical. It wasn't wasn't a blowout win, it wasn't fancy. It was just hard nosed ground and pound football, and I think Mosley really has found a recipe for success in their front five. Those guys have really done a stellar job. Even in talking with Coach Witten earlier in the season, he really had a lot of praise for his offensive line, even his wideouts. If you notice, one of the things that Mosley does very well is their receivers block downfield. So their running backs, if he gets going and he hits the second level, you can expect some of those wideouts to be really, really surging downfield, making sure that they pick up not only 10 and 11 yards, but 15, 17, 25 yards, huge chunks of offense. And for Mosley, I think that's one of the things that will carry them deeper into the playoffs is that those little intangible things that kind of make it where they can be really, really tough to deal with.
Well, I'm looking forward to see who they play in the first round. That should be pretty interesting. And that matchups make a difference. Sometimes you play the right team, uh, you can go far. If you play the wrong team, they can really mess up your run. So the matchups make the biggest difference in this playoff.
You can see Chisholm averaging just under a buck per game at 97, and then Adam Land really, has been has had a stellar year, averaging almost 75 yards receiving per game. This is going to be a tough out. Whoever draws Mosley in the first round. Dolphins a little bit more seasoned than last year. And then you get the added bonus of the dead period, the dead week this week, where you're not going off of a loss into the first round. You get a chance to kind of rest up, catch your bearings, and I think for Mosley, this will be a much more experienced team going into the first round. I think a lot of people that kind of haven't really paid attention to what Mosley has done. To me, like I said, going back earlier, that signature win over Niceville in Niceville really set the tone midway through the season for them. And realizing, when you beat an opponent like that, on the road, it kind of showcases what you can do. And I think this is a team that definitely I could see Mosley playing in the regional, not only the regional final, but the semifinals, if not further. So let's keep it rolling in week number 11. Taylor County caps off a fantastic regular season with a resounding win against Leon Eddie with a 43-28 win. For Taylor County, one of the things that they've done very well is they've managed to stay healthy. This was a team, we kind of wondered what could have been last year when they got banged up, and this group has managed to stay healthy. And looking at the way that they have pretty much just responded from the Chieftain loss, ripping off 4 straight, that's pretty much what you want to see, where there's no midseason collapse. A lot of teams that get tested early and then they kind of fall off the slope a little bit. Taylor County just collected themselves, and a week later bounced back, and they capped off a great regular season in their season finale with a 43-28 win over Leon.
Yeah, Taylor County had a great season. Coach Braswell talked about this early. We talked at the beginning of the season. He thought he was going to have a pretty good football team, and it came to fruition. This group of kids came out and played tough. The only thing they got to deal with is in the playoffs what the matchup they got, because 1A Rural is not an easy playoff spot to be in. With Taylor County, you got Madison, you got Bluntstown in this area. I mean, it's some tough matchups for this group, but they had a great season. I know they don't want to get ahead of themselves. All they want to know is who they're playing in the first round, and if you win one, it's win in advance in the playoffs.
There you go. And to your point, they're going to be a power kind of in that rural standpoint. And man, they had some flashes of it feels like a Madison County type team here, gang. As you kind of see a couple highlights later, a lot of their after their first couple of scores, a lot of north-south football, and it's right in the interior of that offensive line. And it's rare that you see a rural school play a little bully ball against some of these bigger 5A clubs. But you can see Bez Glanton and some of the other backs there. They're going to go right north-south and go right down Main Street on the opponent here. And, man, the run game had it going on. And they
when your quarterback can run like that, just lowering the shoulder.
Here's another good one. Right down Main Street. There he goes.
Yeah, I was at this game, and it was around that moment this is where I start to catch all of it. And watching Taylor County perform, truly, man, and I think it was one of the running backs by the last name of Flowers had a good run in this game as well. So I think a lot of teams in the rural are going to have a tough time dealing with this really good running game, especially the quarterback draw plays that they have. Now, on the other side of the ball, Leon actually held its own for a while in this game. At halftime, it was only 22-14, and it was the same score for a good portion of the game. But I think had they limited, mistakes that were made on penalties and stuff like that, it would have been maybe different. But, Coach Bell has a solid young core returning next season. He has an up-and-coming junior class to transition to seniors and sophomores to juniors, something to build up on. And, they finished the game strong, 43-28. It was only a 2-score game. But, yeah, I think Taylor County is going to definitely be a really good and entertaining team to watch in the rural division. I'm excited, too, to see who they get matched up with. That's what I'm really looking forward to on Selection Thursday tomorrow.
Yeah, those big runs are brutal, though. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in on you, Mark.
No, it's okay. When you look at Taylor County, I mean, my goodness, if you don't, if you're not prepared to bring them down upon contact, they will run right through you. This is one of the things you can see, from the running back to the quarterback, they do not go down on first contact, and that's one of those things where if you have the ability to pick up 3, 5, 7 extra yards or potentially break one, it really just kind of puts you in a different category because now you're not it's almost impossible to put a team into a 3 and out situation like that when you're picking up 6, 12, 15 yards per carry. And for Taylor County, a lot of what I have seen, of course, we get a chance to talk about Jabez Glanton and just how stellar of a year he's had. He's also averaging like 126 on the ground. It's weird when you get into a situation where the quarterback's going to run, he's going to get certain yardage, but man, the kid's got an arm too. He's able to kind of sit in the pocket and also find some open receivers. And just when you think they're going to line up and run it again, here they are in a play action or some kind of rollout where they're going to create some space and create some mismatches. And then they've got another big, huge offensive play. Taylor County is definitely going to be one of those teams that you're going to have to reckon with in the rural playoffs. I can see this team, and this is the unfortunate part about the rural. It's going to get really, really tight in the second and third rounds. You're going to start seeing a lot of teams dropping off cliffs, and you're going to see a lot of close matchups because it's literally stacked like that. I think there's 5 or 6 teams, and it's only 100th of a point that separate them in the rankings. It's that close. So you've got the potential to see some really big time matchups in that first round, but there's definitely after the second round, I can still see where there's going to be a lot of disappointment for some teams because it's just going to be a lot of close games.
It's always that way in the playoffs, Mark. Somebody got to win, somebody got to lose. 2 good teams get beat in the playoffs. And you can have a great season, but it doesn't matter. Everybody starts off 0-0. You could be the home team or you could be a away team. All you got to do is play your best that day. Because you can have a bad day. I'm a witness to that. You could have a great football team, and another team comes out and they play their A game, and you play your B game, and you be going home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, plus with that makeup week or that gap week, I'm really interested to see how that affects it because you have teams with an extra week of preparation. Well, I say an extra week, but they won't know the matchups. But still, you get an extra like 2 or 3 days, maybe 4 or 5, depending, to focus on that one specific team. So I'm interested to see how that kind of translates itself in not only a couple teams having a week off, but everybody being 2 weeks removed from football, except for the teams that made up a couple games here earlier this week.
Well, one thing, Juke, they might have somebody like you. You already know who playing tomorrow. You just haven't released yours. Juke, the numbers guy.
I'm going to release the brackets right now.
You can just hold it back, and I guarantee you got a great idea how the bracket's going to go based on the formula that's available to all of us.
We're going to dip into the crystal ball a little bit later on in the show and go over some potential first-round matchups. We'll see how it's shaping out. But for right now, the work is done, especially for the teams that are headed into the playoffs. There are some teams that, where, hey, we're going to see how it works out. Potentially, there might be a slim chance for some shakeups, but for the most part, those final rankings that came out this week will go into the selection process, and we'll see where everybody's going to be playing next Friday. This one I had circled almost at the beginning of the year. Lafayette and Chipley linked up, and this is one where typically you don't teams that are on the east of Tallahassee don't typically play teams that are west of Tallahassee. There's enough football in your own backyard where you don't really see too many teams crossing the time zone line to play each other. But this is just such an interesting matchup to me because both teams were very evenly matched, and you can see by the score, Lafayette hosting Chipley, and Tigers end up coming out on top of this one, 21-20, and this was everything that you could have wanted because a lot of what you're going to see, this was really probably the best first-round matchup that you're going to get in the rural playoffs. It just happens to be that there's just so much that you can. There's only really so much that you can kind of squeeze in there. But this was one of those interesting matchups that I found just to be where I just had my eyes on it. Chipley and Lafayette both came into this game at 8-1, riding several game win streaks. Chipley's only loss was to home county in their rivalry game, and Lafayette, I think they bit the dust earlier against Chiefland, who just went on an absolute tear earlier in the year. But this one was as close as you could have wanted it. I think both teams really just kind of played their best ball. And coming down to the wire at the end of the season, this is kind of what you expect to see. But Chipley ends up taking this one, and man, it was a close ball game.
Yeah, Mark, this game was about all game long. If I'm not mistaken, Lafayette took the lead 20-14, and I kind of looked the way I thought it was over. It's going to be over. Chipley took the ball and drove it the length of the field, scored a winning touchdown, and made the extra point, and took the lead and won a 1-point game, which for these two teams, that's the absolute perfect score because they are very close in talent and two very good football teams. And we don't know. I guess we're going to have to find out tomorrow where they're both line up. Both of them will be in the playoffs. And we're going to see what bracket they're in, where they're going to meet, whether they're going to meet each other again. And that would be, it's a coin toss for whoever wins the next matchup.
Yeah, this was kind of a treat, I think, for the neutral fan. Obviously, that the missed PAT down the stretch is brutal if you're on Team Lafayette, but you always wonder how like a really strong and a really momentumous offense is going to match up against a really, really strong defense. And I feel like it's very rarely do we kind of meet in the middle because we knew those were the strengths of both of these teams, but it was like a perfect storm. It was really cool. They were wire to wire. Response, heavyweight fight. There weren't a lot of big hits in, but when they got them in, they matched each other really well. And it was cool to see Williamson go up against the defense and then Coltrane, kind of the sure and steady kind of Chipley team. But then they had the big play there, as you could see, to kind of get it going. And so, man, it was just a really good effort. And you have a couple scores in that second half that give you a really tight atmosphere. And this is a playoff game we got just 2 weeks early.
Yeah, I was about to say, to add to your point, Mark, a matchup of a team that is east of Tallahassee versus a team that's west. Once in a while, those rural division schools like to have an idea of who they may run into. So matchups like this, I think, are a once in a while thing. And look at that run. Whatever camera this is, I'm trying to figure out because it looks split, like players disappear for one moment and then they reappear. But the defense and the pressure that Chipley was able to have in this game is really good, and I can't wait to see what the Tigers are going to look like in the rural playoffs.
There is a universe where these two teams could meet again, and that's just the reality of how close it is. It's just one of those where you look at how the brackets could potentially fall. There is a scenario where this could happen again. Just looking at where Lafayette falls. Of course, you drop a little bit with the loss, but their schedule was just so strong. I think it just kind of holds them in place a little bit, and we'll find out during the selection show. But this game was indicative of where these two teams kind of sit during the season. This is going to be one of those where if you had, and I think some years back, if you had split the rural class, there's a chance that both of these teams can make deep playoff runs if they didn't have to run into each other again. And that's just kind of the reality of how rural football is situated right now, where you're probably going to see some of the best football all over the state right here in just kind of the North Florida pockets, and then you kind of trickle down south a little bit into Fort Meade and then Pahokee with some of the teams that are more south and rural. But it's kind of a crime that you get this good of a brand of football, and you're going to condense it down to really about 2 weeks, because once you get into week 3 of the playoffs, the teams that have survived will kind of rise to the top, and that's just one of the unfortunate things about it. But yeah, this was really a first round playoff matchup. I like to consider it between two heavyweights in the rural classification, and man, it was a good one. Chifley comes out on top, 21-20 over Lafayette. But yeah, fear not, we'll be seeing both of these teams again in the second season coming up shortly. And this one was just for fun, but man, it was another good ball game. Gaston County outlasts Wakulla to end their season 3-5. You can toss the records out. Gaston County was playing for a lot more than just some short term bragging rights. This was really kind of sending a message that the Jags weren't going to go away quietly, and they did a lot to try and say that they've gotten back a few players in the midway point of the season and really just kind of turned everything around. Had an upset win against Florida High, really dominating fashion. And for the Jags, this was one of those where they just wanted to put the exclamation point and kind of tell the world, hey, we're still Gaston County football. The amazing run they had last year, quite a few remnants from that team still left over. Still a lot of Division I talent on that team, and they just put a really big, exclamation point at the end of the season with their regular season against Wakulla with a 28-20 win. Due to the sanctions, Jaguars not eligible for the postseason, but man, that would have been a treat as well, watching the Jazz compete. The schedule was built for them to take on kind of a who's who this year, and when everything kind of fell apart back in August, it just kind of decimated and put some gaps in their schedule. So I think they only got in 8 games this year, but the Jags definitely really turned some heads in this ball game.
Well, Mark, all they showed you was that if they had their whole team, they probably would have been down in the championship game once again. They had some great athletes there. These guys they got rocked early in the season. I think they kind of lost their way, and then when they finally started putting things together, they became a tough out. And a team that if they had their whole team, nobody would want to play, because I think they would have been one of the best teams in the state of Florida. Too bad what happened. It's unfortunate, but you have those different things when you're not playing for anything and you lose some of your players. It's tough to coach when the kids don't have really anything to play for.
Yeah, and I think you got to give credit to anybody involved with that program that stuck it out, went through, and they understood from day one. It's like, hey, playoffs is off the table, and all of the adversity that they kind of went through, and it's just really cool to see the team come together. They won the last 3 ball games of the season, and to your point, Mark, you talked about pride, and I think we kind of framed this as Gadsden's bowl game for the season. But you look about it, and this is a respect factor down the stretch. All these guys are going to look down upon, and you hear all this kind of negativity surrounding Gaston County. But how about ending the season on a positive note with those last 3 victories? And you look at it. They played Lincoln tough on the road. They beat Florida High. They beat Wakulla. And so you look at kind of those traditional powers, and you kind of see your pecking order kind of in the Big Bend. Those are a lot of bookmark teams, so to speak, or those are a lot of traditional pillars. I mean, I'm excited to see what's the future for Gaston County, but Jayon Weems and the rest of the gang had it going on, and the rest of everybody that was there start to finish here for Gadsden, coming back from injury, like you said, all that good stuff, Mark. And then on a football standpoint, shout out to Ashton Callahan, just a little 234 on the ground, 3 touchdowns, but really excited for Gaston as a whole. And I think a great story to end this season here, and a bright spot going forward, because they're going to be, at least based on this, a competitor come next year. And so it feels like we just get an extra team added to back into the mix, if you will, for kind of our Big Bend area. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Listening to this game, this was just a entertaining game. The history that these two counties.
Ooh, look at the move.
Yeah, man. And Wakulla just doing what they can, but the running game for Gaston County was just far too much, But to add to your point, Jube, yeah, they finished strong, 3 straight wins in a row to close the season. They go into the offseason with confidence and momentum. And that is something you definitely want to hold on to with your returning players. Now, on the other side of it for Wakulla, I know this would have been nice to get win number 7, but still, you're district champs, you're getting ready for the playoffs. And shout out to my buddy Sherman Williams, owner of Confidence Cuts Barbershop. He was watching this game. He was kind of bummed that they didn't win. But again, he's excited for what this team is going to do in the playoffs. And so am I. And I might even join old Chris Savory and the crew on Wave 94 when that time comes.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that, and a lot of what will happen, especially in the playoffs, is that it'll be more like this. I think a lot of what people forget is that this team still there's still a few pieces where a lot of those kids that were sophomores will return for their senior season. It's just really deep in Gaston County, and that's one of those where it's a consolidated county where you get to have you can get to a point where you can put together another powerhouse. It was done before, it can be done again. I think it just has a lot to do with just the coaching staff and just what kind of nucleus they're going to be working with. The foundation is really already there. I think it just has more so to do with just how, going into the off-season months will be very critical to figure out what pieces do we have and how do we go back to the drawing board and work with what we have. But there's it's a talented county. They could be very much in a situation like Wakulla where you can get to keep the kids in the county and really build something special there, especially being able to have a state championship berth kind of puts a lot of the tradition in place. It just is one of those things where you get a chance to kind of start building something. And for me, I think it's exciting to be able to look at the future. On the other side of the coin, you got Wakulla really, it's one of those where you just, you kind of just hold your breath a little bit. You want to stay healthy. This team is going to play you tough. It's their senior night. They had the field painted up. All the pageantry was there. It's their big hoorah. You just want to make sure your guys, you don't want to get back on the bus and somebody's taped up or, you got to plug in somebody else next week. But this is a great moment where Wakulla is going into the dead period at the right time, getting a chance to recruit. They've had a topsy-turvy schedule as well. They started out flat, came on really strong in the midway point of the season, turned some heads, snatched the district championship. This is a team that's still very dangerous, and I think if they can find a rhythm with what they can do as far as offensively, if they can find a rhythm defensively, this could be a team that could definitely turn some heads and make a deep playoff run as well. This one just was a fun one to watch. I don't know if anybody had the chance. It was a slugfest for a minute, but NFC and Freeport got our titles mixed up. NFC and Freeport linked up. Freeport takes it by 36-35 over NFC, and man, a lot of what we saw just had we're gonna get that title fixed real quick. But a lot of what we saw this year is just NFC really trying to rebuild that program and get it back to where it belongs. Talked to Coach McCorvey earlier in the year, and I think he knows what kind of talent he has, but it's just a lot of just putting those pieces back together in the Eagle football program. But Freeport had kind of it was a tale of two halves of the season. Started out really hot, winning 4 straight in the beginning of the year, and then just fell off a cliff. I think they lost a couple of guys coming down the stretch. Then they come down I-10 into Tallahassee, and just, man, it was an instant classic, and they end up snatching one away from the Eagles, 36-35.
Mark, I watched this game. North Florida took a 2-score lead, and it really was in control of this game. I was kind of confused because I turned away from it because I thought North Florida was going to blow them out. When I look back, man, this game is a close football game, and saw that Freeport pulled it out at the end, 1 point. Man, it was a surprise that they looked like North Florida kind of they lost their way late in the game and didn't quite come through. The victory was right there for them. They had the lead. They had a big lead, and ended up losing the game at the end.
Yeah, it's a good matchup though with Freeport and NFC both kind of getting those run games going with Luthane for Freeport and then of course Rozier and the rest of the gang for NFC. NFC's kind of getting into a little bit of a hot streak. I know they were up 12 points I think in that fourth quarter, coach, to your reference. I think it was 35-23 was the count before Freeport came back and scored those 2 touchdowns to finish things off, but both of these teams got some good momentum going forward when you look at the season, especially the last 3-4 games for NFC, and then for this bounce back win for Freeport. That was big for them, and that'll kind of put them in well, I guess we'll get to it a little later. But I think both these teams trending positively as we look into tomorrow's selection show.
Yeah, man. These hurt, man. These 1 point wins and losses for these teams, man. It gets you at the heart. But yeah, Freeport all season long has been quite an entertaining team. We've talked about them, on here quite often. And I actually checked out. I believe Freeport is what, 1A or 2A? 2A. And I was looking at how all season long in the overall rankings, they were slowly moving up. So this was a win that definitely helps their chances on possibly, getting into the 2A state playoffs or perhaps the FIT. We'll see moving forward. And the same could be said for NFC. We just have to wait until tomorrow to see if they also get in over there into the 1A state playoffs.
So let's take a look at the box score. Coach, you can see where really just NFC was out front early, and then Freeport storming back in the second quarter, 17-21 going into the half. And then you can see where things got really wild going into the third quarter and into the fourth. And really, Freeport, the one of the things that they have such a sizable offensive front. I think in the during media day, we've met a few of those kids, 6'5", 6'4", and it was just really, kind of intimidating being around guys like that. But looking at how things just kind of unfolded, NFC really, a lot of what they've been able to do is just be really scrappy and just hang around in football games and really come up with methods to try and get the win. But you can see here, really rushing by committee, running back by committee. Jones and Rozier really kind of carried the team, 90 and 101 apiece. But NFC really just honestly through the air, 324 passing for what is it? Kanye? Is it Coin? Tommy Coin, forgive me if I messed up your name, but 20 of 29 for 2 touchdowns really just was the difference. NFC had really been a running team, in my opinion, towards the midway point of the season, and now we see the passing game emerging a little bit. This one was kind of where we saw evenly matched numbers here in the ground game with Freeport putting up 220 and NFC 276. But again, looking at how things unfolded, man, this one was just close down to the wire. Freeport, just the extra score going away in the fourth quarter just kind of was the difference maker. NFC probably could have walked out with a 35-28 win, but that last score by Freeport really was the dagger in that one. This was one of those where I felt like NFC needed it. And I'm not really sure. We'll take a look at the playoff points here in just a minute. But for NFC, a lot of it just has to do with just more so like where are things going to fall when it comes to the selection show tomorrow? Because this is one where, had they won this one would have only bolstered and kind of secured their spot. Now they go into that little gray area. So we'll do some rough math a little bit later on in the show, but for right now, it's really just looking at what Freeport was able to do, and hats off to the Bulldogs. They were able to grab one in a tough road environment against NFC with the win, 36 to 35.
Yeah, side note, just to jump in hard, NFC had 600 yards of offense.
Wow.
Just want to throw that out there. They were rolling up and down, up and down. And yeah, shout out to Rondarion Jones. He had like a Devin Achan game, 100 receiving and 100 rushing. Just footnote there.
Man, that'll make me sick if I had that much offense and lost.
One can only imagine.
It happened though. It happened before though. I don't even have to imagine. It happened.
Yeah, NFC defense actually played pretty good too. I think they had 3 sacks during the game. That is killer when you put up that much offense and it doesn't show up in the win column. And yeah, it can definitely hurt you. But yeah, let's keep it moving. We definitely got to talk about one of our premier matchups down in the capital city. Rickards taking on Lincoln, and the Trojans put the exclamation point on the regular season campaign, finishing the year at 6-4. This was the win where you got it. In my opinion, I think the Trojans had to have it, and they got it against Rickards. The Raiders really started out very scrappy in the beginning, kind of throwing some punches here and there. Felt like they were going to get in the upset mode like Godby did the week before, but Lincoln shut the door on that one, and the Trojans take it 35-12 over the Raiders. This one really was about points. We talked about where Rickards sat in the points in the region, and Rickards, without having to do anything, is still pretty much a playoff lock right now as it stands. Lincoln was the one that needed the work to be done because they really want to get into a position where they host that first round playoff matchup. And honestly, this is one of those where you kind of go back and you're like, okay, it's a weird situation where you look at the districts and you got to wonder, is a district championship even worth it anymore? Because if you can't host and you don't get that first round playoff game at home, you kind of go back to the whole system of, well, why do we have it? So with the district championship, Lincoln is guaranteed a playoff spot. But we went over some math, last week, and if they didn't have the district wrapped up, they would be sitting at number 9. And that just kind of, one of those where you really got to look at how things, kind of work out in the points system. But for right now, Lincoln's still in the playoffs. Just a weird situation because we're not sure if the Trojans will be able to host or not.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mark. I like the old system. If I win the district, I got a home game. I host at least one game. I host. And it's a reward for doing something positive during the season. If just making the playoffs is all that you get, I guess that's okay too, because you don't want to be left out of that. But man, I like the old way where you guaranteed a home game, and I'm sure Lincoln would love to have that home game, that matchup at the beginning of the playoffs, because it's an advantage. You get to play home. You expect to win when you're home, and usually if you're home team, you get the lesser team out of the playoff group. We didn't talk to Coach Jackson or anybody. Asked him. I don't know if you did, Mark. Talk to anybody at Lincoln, asking them, find out how they felt about it. But I'm guessing they just got glad that they made the playoffs.
It was a tough. It's a tough schedule. Lincoln's schedule, obviously, I would put it up there in the top 5 in terms of who they played. We saw them go down and play Nice, Ware County out of Georgia. I think the Trinity Christian game was probably the dagger that really kind of gutted a lot of the momentum that they had. Did not see that one coming. It just is one of those where, when you finally get down to your regular season finales and your last 2 or 3 games, the Godby loss really stung. And for Lincoln, I think it's not – I wouldn't put this team in wounded animal mode. I think it just was more so just when those games occur, and how you stack up against a lot of teams. Lincoln, in my opinion, offensively, I think they're fine. A lot of what we've seen them do is just really kind of position themselves. They got such a dynamic quarterback in Jacobs and what they're able to do with him in so many different scenarios. We know that the offensive firepower is there. There were some questions about whether or not you know which running game is going to show up because once that if that ground game gets going for Lincoln, they just look absolutely unstoppable in a lot of situations. But if the running game isn't quite there, it makes them a little vulnerable and it puts a lot of pressure on their defense, in my opinion. But this is a team I do think that I call it Trojan magic. I've seen it so many years where they just find ways to win, and it's just something about the logo in and of itself is worth 2 or 3 wins. So
Oh no! Don't give them that. Don't do that, Mo.
the
Don't do
gold,
that.
something about the gold helmets, I've seen
Don't do
I've
that.
seen it too many times. It's just I've watched Lincoln in situations where at some point or another, it's like, man, I don't know if they're going to win this game, and then they end up pulling it out. So this is one of those where I look at what the program is like, and that's really one of the things that allows them to get to the second, third round and be able to do. We've seen Lincoln go on runs before. I think we've seen them rip off a couple of like 2 or 3 wins on the road in the playoffs, and before you know it, they're playing in the state semifinals. So the second season is always going to be a different animal, and I think for Lincoln, it's just one of those winning you're in, and we'll let the business of playoff football work itself out. Same thing with Rickards. For Rickards, it's just a lot of what you can see according to the record. There were about 4 wins on there that they're just missing, and I know Coach Lewis, that's just frustrating, but I go back and I look at the East Side game. There were just so many things where you leave points on the table and it comes back to bite you. If Rickers comes out and they play complete football, this could be a dangerous team too because they got a ton of weapons there already built in. So this could be an interesting run for both teams as Rickers. We looked at some math and we'll go over a few more scenarios later on in the show. So hopefully everybody will hang out with us for a little minute. Man, the comment section is like, Will, I'm looking at Will McLeod, man. Will, I'm gonna have to hold you to some of this stuff, man. He's making some predictions in there. I'm gonna have to check that out. But yeah, going back to the Week 11 slate, Rickards falls to Lincoln in the regular season finale, 12-35. Trojans take it in a must-win situation for Lincoln. I think we'll look at how the selection show goes tomorrow. But man, everything counted in that last week, number 11. All right, now on to the SSAA playoffs. Alcilla Christian didn't even blink, kept the train rolling in a big 49-13 win over Central Florida Christian. They draw Mount Dora this week, in the second round of the SSAA playoffs. But a great win for Alcilla Christian against Central Florida. A lot of what Alcilla's been able to put together this year is just quietly going about their business. Only one loss, and I think that was in week number 3 or 4, if I'm not mistaken. But for the Warriors, it's just really just been a lot about playing their own brand of football, and man, they've been a tough out at home.
Yeah, Mark, this a surprise with this team after changing coaches this season. A new coach. Please forgive me, Coach. I couldn't remember your name, but they changed coaches, and like they didn't miss a beat. I know we dealt with Coach Roberts quite a bit over the years, and he moved on to administration at the high school, so he's no longer coaching the football team. And it seemed like these guys didn't miss a beat. They had a great season with 7-1, 8-1, and in the first round of the playoffs, putting up quite a bit of numbers, big numbers on a playoff opponent. Both teams were good, with pretty good records, but Arcilla just dominated this game.
Out there in the woods.
Yeah, you don't have to play them on Halloween for it to be a scary matchup with Oscilla gang. And this is with the first-year coach Matt Wheeler. So shout out Coach Wheeler,
Thank
Coach.
you gonna
That's
get
what we
mad at
do
me.
together.
I knew him when I think he was at Lincoln. No, at Florida High. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Florida High, man. He's kind of got some of that Seminole flair here, and I love the balance that Oscilla has. Maybe not something that we've seen in years past, but if La Rosa needs to sling it a little bit, he can. He can carve up a little zone defense. If they want to put it on the ground like they did here this past Friday, they can put up 300 yards. They got some size up front. You love their physicality, and I think they're going to be a really tough out because at least when I'm kind of peeking down the line, which I know we'll get to in a little bit for some of these other teams, it kind of seems like Oscilla is more versatile than a lot of these teams that we see here. So I like our boys' chances going down the line. But yeah, they took care of business in the short term. Keep on marching. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah, without a doubt. Now that they are one of the only teams now in the Big Bend region representing, in the SSAA. More on that as we continue in the show. This was a good playoff win, and I'm excited to see what else they're going to do moving forward because their bracket, the way how it's designed, I labeled it as the North Central. So there's going to be some interesting teams along the way. Granted that they keep continuing this journey. So we're going to get into that here real shortly. But, props out to the Warriors on this playoff win and in dominant fashion, too. Look at that run right up the side.
Oscella's just been fun to watch this year. 1 point separates them from an undefeated season. They had a 1 point loss, 21-20 against Trenton earlier in the year. And yeah, you watching them, just seeing how dynamic they are on offense, taking up huge chunks. I think the offense gets a lot of credit, but the defense has been a big unsung hero of what the Warriors have been able to produce this year. But yeah, shout out Coach Wheeler, really taking over the helm in his first year, coming over from Florida High, and really, man, and it's not like the engine wasn't running when he got the keys, but man, being able to take this team on an 8-1 run into the SSAA playoffs and having them knocking on the door. They got a huge test coming up against Mount Dora this week. Getting in that critical second round, but yeah, I think this team has definitely overachieved and really turned some heads in the Big Bend as being one of the top teams in the area, irregardless of classification. A lot of what we've seen with Oscilla is just, man, they're a smaller program, but man, the way these kids operate, they are built to, hey, you're going to be playing multiple positions. You're going to be going both ways. This team is still built for 13, 14 games, and they make it look fun. Just from a fan standpoint, they're one of the more entertaining teams to watch in the area. So hats off to the Warriors on a fantastic season so far, and it's not over. They have another game this week in the SSAA playoffs. So we'll be seeing the Warriors take on Mount Dora here in just a little bit. We'll preview that game. But let's go ahead and talk about one of our good friends, Coach Cooper, really turned around the Franklin Seahawks program, just had been dormant for years, and just kind of came in and breathed some life. Their SSAA debut did not go the way that they wanted it to, but still a high-scoring affair, a lot of action in the game. And even still, the Seahawks season still kind of, and I'm not sure on the ruling of this. If you're in the SSAA playoffs, are you disqualified from the Florida Invitation? Is that how that works?
Yeah, because the Florida Invitational is a FHSAA thing. This playoff that they were in was the Sunshine State Athletic Association Atlantic Division, which is like a full division for the SSAA. So their season, respectfully, is done. But shout out to Coach Cooper, for their first season as members of the SSAA. They, in my opinion, they had a very good turnout this season, and I think we'll see how it carries on into next season as well, now that you have a handful of players that are going to return back with playoff experience. So yeah, that's how it is with the SSAA.
Man, I'm shout out, congratulations to a successful season to Coach Cooper. Too bad, I hate to see they lose in the first round. But hey, like you said, a few years ago, this team didn't put any after regular season. They usually putting up the pads. Now they look forward to extra football as you call it. They get more games. They're playing in the playoffs. Congratulations to another successful season to Coach Cooper.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to back 6-win seasons. They had it going on. You gotta love to see Juno and the gang go down swinging. But this is an interesting kind of pocket of the state that Franklin's in because the SSAA is gaining some serious traction in kind of Jacksonville. You see
Yeah.
teams like Paxson, a little kind of lower on the total, but you have West Nassau, Stanton for an Indiana Beach. And so for some of these schools in this realm, when you start to see a true challenger to the fight, makes you think about it a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see, especially over the offseason, what kind of momentum that this league continues to garner, which I think only helps teams in a profile like Franklin County. So really excited to see what that's going for. But to your point, gang, back-to-back 6-win season. Let's go. Beach ball.
I love to see a dormant program come to life. I always think that's one of the more commendable things to be able to kind of go into an area and breathe some life into it, and just the way he's been really. I mean, when you talk to Coach, he's so passionate about the program and the kids down there. Every little detail, from fixing up the locker room, building the strength and conditioning program. So yeah, a great season for the Seahawks. They were competitive in every single game. This is a team that averaged like 38 points a game. No slouch. Although it didn't end the way they wanted it to, this is a team that was giving it they were giving every team a shot. A lot of what we saw was just running into the traditional rural classification powerhouses that they were going up against, and they were really holding their own. Last year, they had upended Liberty County and kind of stole a few games from quite a few opponents, and opening up the season. A lot of what we saw was just more of the same. Them just going into different places and people just not really knowing how to deal with what they were doing offensively. The defense was physical. Really looking forward to Seahawks 3.0 next year and seeing what they bring back to the table. But this is definitely a program that's on the rise.
Absolutely.
All right, so some other area scores from around the area. Week number 11 in the books. Maclay falls on the road to Walton, 43-13. And so I'm not sure. We'll end up reaching out to Maclay's coach. I wonder if he rested a couple of guys in this one, but Marauders fall 43-14. Walton gets a big win to close out the regular season. Rutherford and Arnold. This one will almost just two embattled teams this year, but man, this was a great one. Arnold takes it over Rutherford 35-28 in a throw the records out kind of ball game. You want to beat your rivals. Who's going to end the season on a high note? Fish come out on top over the Rams. Arnold takes it 35-28. Childs a big winner over Swanee 55-28. Timberwolves end the season on a high note, and man, you just gotta kind of wonder that Florida high game for the Timberwolves. I know they want it back so bad because their playoff hopes really were in kind of in limbo going at the just looking at their schedule and how the points matched up. They're on the outside looking in currently, but a big win over Swanee nonetheless to end the year on a high note. Battle of Bay County. Man, Tornadoes take the county championship. I know that was one of the things they hit, kind of the trifecta, beat your rival, got the big win earlier over Mosley, won the district championship, and now they are crowned Kings of Bay County, your Bay Tornadoes, with a 62-13 win over Bozeman. Cottondale, a big winner over Gracefield. This was just one of the more traditional end of the year matchups. Cottondale takes it 56-14 over the Graceville Tigers, and Cottondale sitting in a nice position going down the stretch. We'll see. We'll do some rough math for the playoffs here in just a minute. Marietta falls to South Walton. Seahawks go on the road and get a big win over Mariana, 49-20. Sneed's a big winner over North Bay Haven, 38-22, and the Pirates have very methodically gone about their business and are sitting in a nice spot right now for the rural playoffs. Columbia runs into a buzzsaw against Bowles. Bowles is I think that the last time I checked, Bowles, I think was the number 5 ranked team in the state. Classification. They fall in a tough one, 31-0 at home, but they do not see Bowles in the playoffs. So this might be a nice little tune-up for the Tigers as playoff football gets ready to get underway. Godby falls on the road, and really what would have been a nice, kind of exclamation point at the end of the season. They fall to Dothan, Alabama, 64-42, high scoring affair, but Cougars fall and end up on the losing end of this one. Madison County handles business on the road against Lecanto, 43-7 against the Panthers. Madison now surging, and this is one of those where, man, I do not want to look. I do not want to look for Madison on my side of the bracket. That'll be a tough draw, as they have arguably played one of the toughest schedules in the state. Keeping it rolling here, Holmes County falls in a tough one. Man, it was so close. And this was one of those where we talked about it, man. Holmes County was on the outside looking in, and this one, man, they had to have it. It just came up a little bit short against out of Alabama, 20-22. We'll see where the Blue Devils fall during the selection show, but we'll have an opportunity to really kind of see where and what's in store for them. Yeah, Blue Devils will definitely be playing in the postseason, but which tournament will they be in? We'll see. FAMU High ends the season on a high note, and look out, but DRS with their 4th win of the year over Houston County out of Alabama, 48-30. DRS a big winner to close out the regular season. Hamilton County falls in their regular season finale to Branford, who has really been on an uptick as of late with a huge 49-6 win over the Hamilton County Trojans. We'll see where Branford falls in the playoffs in just a moment here. Port St. Joe, a big winner over Destin, 30-7. Tiger Sharks close out the regular season, and they were right there on the bubble too. So we'll see where the Tiger Sharks end up. We'll do some math here in just a minute. And Hitchcock falls to Central in a close one, 14-12, and that will do it for your 2025 regular season. Everybody who had to turn in pads this week, man, it's one of those rough feelings. You always hate it when you don't get a chance to play in the second season. But those who are moving on to the playoffs and we have the rule and now open up to all classifications. The Florida Invitational Tournament. We're going to see a lot of teams playing postseason ball here in a minute. So selection show will be happening tomorrow, but we're going to go over some rough numbers here in a minute. But let's go ahead and jump into we got one more preview game before we talk playoffs. Osceola Christian, the Warriors looking to keep things rolling in the SSAA playoffs, matching up against Mount Dora Christian, who right now the Bulldogs sitting at 10-1. And for Osceola Christian, this is man, it just doesn't get any better than this. You want to be able to play playoff football, but this is what you get when you get a tough draw. Once you advance in the playoffs, everybody's good at this point. And they will be hitting the road, taking on Mount Dora. This one going on Friday. And, man, looking at the Warriors, they've been, really dynamic on offense. Got to look at how the defense is going to shape up against the Bulldogs in this one.
Yeah, I think Osceola, going with a great season, you expect to play tough opponents. And I'm not sure, I don't know much about Mount Dora, what kind of schedule they played, records. When we get to the playoffs, it doesn't matter what your record is, it's how good you are that day. And if Osceola keep playing like they did in last week, this could be one heck of a matchup. And I'm hoping that I can be able to see it on the network. It should be a pretty good matchup.
Yeah, this is a fun one that you like Oscilla's offense, but you wish they had a structure that was similar to the FHSA. Because if you're going to play, or you wish you had an extra week to prepare, I think Mount Dora's on your short list. They've got this funky, I want to call it a flex wing formation that they run, but they got three backs in there with the quarterback, but they're running it out of the shotgun. It's got a wing look, but they're up in front. It's funky. They run a lot of misdirection and a lot of chaos. It's not a triple option, it's a quadruple option. That the way that they run this thing, they're all over the place. So the discipline for Oscilla's got to be there. Can you win the line? Can you bring down the ball carrier? But I like Oscilla's advantage offensively. So if you can get one or two stops versus Mount Dora, you like Oscilla's chances. But it's going to be a really tough task to be able to get after them. They do some really good movement on the offensive line. A lot of, like I said, misdirection stuff. They do a lot of trick plays, fake high snaps, handoff, little punt rooski stuff. They get real creative with it. So it's going to take a lot of hold your own on defense.
Let's take a look at Mount Dora right here. This is the Bulldogs, and this is kind of that flex wing you were talking about, Jude. Man, tough running there. But the Bulldogs, man, one of the reasons they are 10-1 is because they do a lot of misdirection. You can see they will get your defense going one way, and then all of a sudden running back scoots from around the pulling guard, and he's going the opposite way.
Man, that's a lot of Mark. That's a lot of speed I'm looking at on that team.
Yeah,
Man,
Mount Dora, this school now, Osceola Christian is going down to they're located just north on the outskirts of Orlando. This team has, if I'm not mistaken, played its fair share of local Central Florida competition in the Orlando area. Lake Highland Prep, a team who is also in the same playoffs as Osceola Christian and Mount Dora, is one of the teams they've crossed paths with. So this team plays their fair share of good competition, and that's one of the key things about being a team in the SSAA is that you can play your fair share of teams in your own association, but you could still have games or two against teams from the FHSAA. So this team has experience against some top-notch heavy hitters in their area, and I think Osceola Christian is in for a big test. I still like their chances, but it's going to be tough with all this trickeration that the Bulldogs are doing right here from this highlight reel. I'm like, whew.
Mount Dora, yeah, Coach, to your point, that is a lot of speed.
I'm looking at the speed, baby.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That number 6 at quarterback, Fairling, the sophomore, he kind of does it all. He's like a running back that gets it going. They really don't throw much, but of course you got the quadruple option to worry about. So you got enough in the playbook to keep your mind up at night.
Defense got to keep their eyes stop looking at the eye candy and follow your keys, baby.
Well, I feel like these young men are playing a miniature version of the Navy midshipmen who have perfected running the triple option.
Isaac Farling is the sophomore quarterback, averaging 110 a game on the ground, 18 total touchdowns. He is the person. Also on defense, he's a formidable force as well. Also out from the outside linebacker position, he's got 5 sacks on the year. So you're really keying in on one dude on both sides of the football. But Osceola Christian, in my opinion, if you get LaRosa and company moving, eating up potential those big chunk plays that they have, this could be a very close ball game. I like Osceilla's chances. I wish it was at home out in the woods, but Warriors hitting the road in this one. Always gonna be rooting for the guys in the local area, but this one's gonna be a tall test going up against Mount Dora Christian, who's sitting at 10-1 right now.
Yes, Osceola Christian, when they started the playoffs, they were the number 4 seed, and Mount Dora. This is the number 1 seed, by the way, in their what I call the North Central bracket. So this team, Mount Dora, that Osceola Christian is playing, is the number 1 seed.
Wow.
Yeah, Mount Dora averaging 52 a game. Their only loss coming to Fernandina Beach in the 19-14 affair to open up the season. So yeah, this one's gonna be a fun one. They took it 30-0 over 36-0 over Eagles View in the opening round. They've ripped off 9 straight so far, and this team is definitely going to be one of the bigger tests. But I feel like if the Warriors can come in again, Coach, to your point, if defense is locked in, this could be one where Alcilla could steal one on the road.
All that
So
misdirection is nothing but eye candy. Don't pay attention. Just follow your keys, baby.
Yep, go get them. Go get them.
So yeah, let's go ahead and talk some real football, some 1A football, 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A football. We're gonna open up with the 1A rural, I mean, excuse me, 1A classification. University Christian, if as of today, is the top team in the 1A classification, but with a huge second half surge, Trinity Christian has climbed all the way back up to the third spot, and only 2 points separate them and your McClay Marauders. So McClay took a tumble in their regular season finale, but with the district championship, they are still a lock for the number 2 spot. It comes down to the draw, and we'll see if we can go ahead and get this pulled up for you guys. A lot of what will happen, in my opinion, as we pull up the FHSA numbers here, it's just going to be a mixture of where do teams fall, and just understanding that top 8 here. University Christian, McClay sitting at number 2, Trinity Christian at number 3, Impact Christian at number 4, Episcopal at number 5, Trinity Catholic out of Ocala at number 6, your NFC Eagles at number 7, followed by Providence School out of Jacksonville. And as you can see, that differential right there, and Providence, even though Providence picked up the win, it was not enough to bolster them up in points. So NFC, as it according to this, would be the number 7 school. Looks like we're gonna get a rematch here on Meridian Road if things hold true.
Ooh, nothing like a good potential rivalry to start off the first round of the playoffs.
You hate to play a team you beat. You hate to play them because you're gonna keep doing what you did, and they're gonna make adjustments, and you don't know what those adjustments are, and it's difficult to go in that second. The team, once you lose to a team, you come back with a different game plan.
Yeah, this is one that'll be interesting. Trying to make some predictions or some sense here. It feels like McClay's probably slotted down to the 3. Trinity had a big win. They'll probably jump them into the 2 if we're going off of the pattern. So not what I want to see. Also, NFC dangerous situation. I could see NFEI jumping both of these teams. I could see NFEI getting up into that 7. I think NFC's safe in kind of that 8 range. So if we're doing like an in-out, I don't know if we're doing that, but I'd say McClay in, of course. NFC probably in.
Yeah, I would say NFC is probably safe. Both NFEI and Providence got big wins last Friday, and for it, the point differential is really close. You're almost a full point ahead, which can be that's a hard jump at the end of the year because that's one game measured against 9. But there are other factors in the system that really take into your opponent's strength of schedule as well. So the scheduling has to come into play, and then looking at who NFC played comes into play, and then who spots number 8 and number 9 who they played. It's a complicated system, but we're used to it because we've all lived through the BCS era. So this is just a really watered down version of that, but a lot of what I do think there's a potential that if NFC can hold on, that we might see a rematch. But for right now, I do like NFC's chances to hang on to that playoff spot, even if it's at the number 8 position. So there's a chance that Providence or NEFI could jump. but we'll find out during the selection show tomorrow at noon.
Mark, I like to make a statement to the audience. Do not hold us to these opinions. They're just our opinion. This is don't run with it. We don't make this selection. We don't do the calculation. What you heard was opinions of each individual here, and not the opinion of Four Quarters Online.
Yeah, we need that kind of tagline. And I'm actually going to go the other way, Mark. I'm going to say take everything we say as fact, and I want you to put it all over Facebook and Instagram, screenshot and tag everything.
There's no betting in high school.
Yeah, I just don't want some fans get all upset. You know, hey, Mark, they said we were in the playoffs, and we are in it.
Theoretically, we do believe that we believe y'all should be playing in the postseason, and I thank God every day for the Florida Invitational Tournament. You do get to play in the postseason. We just don't know which tournament it's going to be in. Class 2A, Bowls is your top dog, no pun intended, followed by Pensacola Catholic at number 2. Then you have South Walton, the Seahawks, sitting comfortably at the number 3 spot, 2 points behind them, Baldwin, the Indians. Then you have Florida High. With the loss, Florida High still, there's quite a bit of a jump between Florida High and then Bozeman, followed by Freeport, who is sitting in at the number 7 spot. At number 8 is Walton. Walton picked up a huge win over McClay during the regular season finale, so that might be enough to give them some separation between Andrew Jackson, as they are literally, I would say, almost a tenth of a point, literally neck and neck. A lot of what will happen here is that whoever's in that final spot is going to draw bowls, and that's going to be a tough game. You hate to see it, but it happens. I think the thing, if you're a Florida High, is that, man, you're really hoping to stay right there in the middle, because that gives you the opportunity to draw a more favorable matchup. With the district championship, it also puts you in a good position to host. So Florida High sitting in a really good spot right now, despite the fact that they lost to Mosley in the regular season finale, but their strength of schedule, guys, is way up there. So Seminoles really looking good just based on who they've played. For me, it's Freeport and Bozeman and how that shakes out. Bozeman had the tough loss against Bay. Freeport picked up the big win against NFC. We'll see. There's really a 2.5 point differential between these two schools. I don't expect a whole lot of ground to be picked up by the Freeport. So if you're Bozeman, you might feel a little bit safe. But what that does is that sets up a critical date between potentially a first-round matchup between you all and South Walton. Florida High really looking to hopefully be in a position where they can host Baldwin as the district champion. They do have the locked-up playoff spot. No weirdness happening there, but it does kind of makes for some shifting around, and we'll find out all the finality of everything during the selection show tomorrow at noon. Looking at how things really have shaped out, and just kind of, I'm going to switch over. Andrew Jackson lost last week against First Coast 48-8. So if you're Freeport, that buys you a little bit of a buffer there in for that number 8 spot. So right now it goes like this. Bowles is your top dog, followed by Pensacola Catholic at number 2. South Walton is number 3. Baldwin number 4, Florida High number 5, Bozeman 6, Freeport 7, and Walton number 8. So if this holds, and it looks like it might, just given on the records of everything, you're going to see it looks like you'll see Florida High taking on Baldwin, a potential matchup between Freeport and Pensacola Catholic, who linked up earlier in the regular season. This will be a rematch. And then, man, all the blessings in the world to Walton. Looks like they will be hitting the road to take on Bowles, but you're in the playoffs. And, you know, Coach, you understand better than anybody. Once you get in, it's all about just one game at a time.
Not when you're playing the number 1 seed. Bowles is a different kind of animal, to be honest with you. They ain't no normal 2A school. They should be playing in 6 and 7A. They got a great team and always been a tough program to play. And I thought the FHSA had fixed that with these private schools. Some of them teams not have to play them, and they had an exceptional program, and they ain't normal for a 2A school.
Yeah,
So
Coach, you
there's
hit
your
it
top
right on the
eight. Let's
head.
go ahead and scroll down to 3A. 3A.
A huge
3A,
get for
your
Walton, by
top
the
eight
way.
right now looks like
What'd you say?
this.
What'd you say?
I was just gonna say, huge get for Walton. I think they clinch it. I feel good about Walton staying in. That's the kind of big takeaway from that region. Huge get versus McClay. No, I'm not joking. I'm not joking. Like
I know.
that probably put him in. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
as long as they show up, baby.
Yeah, McClay kind of did him a favor inadvertently. Your top eight, Class 3A, Rains, number 1, Bay, number 2, Bishop Kenny at number 3, Yulee at number 4, Wakulla War Eagles at number 5, West Florida at number 6, Godby Cougars at number 7, and then Baker County, the Wildcats, at number 8. Looking at how everything has kind of shaped itself out, Reigns really in the driver's seat. They are the number 2 ranked team in Class 3A right now and number 11 overall. There is an 8-point differential between Bay and Reigns right now, and most of that's by virtue of just the strength of schedule. Reigns has played probably one of the tougher schedules. No disrespect to Bay. Bay has not what some coaches call, like, Bay has not played the deaf and the blind. They have played some very quality opponents and put together a stellar season. After eking into the playoffs last year, they drew Reigns in a first round matchup. Things did not go their way, and now things totally flipped. They are right in the top of the heap as is concerned. Between Reigns and Bay, again, an 8-point differential, but you could be seeing a Godby versus Bay matchup if things hold. Cougars had the tough loss on the road to Dothan. That, with the points, there's like 100th of a point differential between them and Baker County. We could see a flip-flop. That would put Godby in the number 8 spot, and then they would be taking the trip down I-10 to take on Reigns in the first round. It's really more so about buying yourself some time in this particular region. And for right now, it looks like Wakulla has really a good strong case to be able to host first round matchup, as they would looks like they're right there in the middle of the pack going up against Yulee. A bit of a point differential between Yulee and Wakulla, sitting at 3 points right now. So there's a little bit of a drop off there, and we'll see it with the selection show, kind of where teams would fall in this particular region. But this is going to be a tough one to call, because a lot of what we see here is just Godby and Baker County are that close. For the Cougars, a lot of what it's just the close ball games. And when you look at Godby, I think there were probably about 3 or maybe 4 wins that they probably left on the table. I know Coach Holston talked about that with us earlier in the year. It's just a matter of the talent being there and just wondering which team is going to show up. And, for this one, man, for Godby to draw Reigns in the first round, man, that's going to be an incredibly tough out for Godby. But for Wakulla, man, things could not be better. But the potential to host in the first round, then being able to draw Yulee right there in the middle of the pack, that's pretty much what you want. Bay really looking like they're going to make a deep run into the playoffs, as they look like they could either draw Godby or Baker County, just depending on how the points shake out.
Yeah, it looks like Wakulla does get that home game because they're district champ and Yulee's the runner-up in District 3. So if they stay in this order, Wakulla facing Yulee, but we get that home game because of the weird situation, bylaws, etc.
Yeah, War Eagle Nation will definitely like that. So I know Chris Avery or Doug may be watching right now. If you're watching, There's a possibility. There you go.
Classic District 2, though. Gonna get 3 teams in, probably. Baker County, Godby, Wakulla.
That's
Yeah,
impressive.
that is one of the interesting things about this district. It's year in and year out. You these three teams have always been battling each other. Um, but yeah, this is one of the tougher regions though. When you look at just from top to bottom between Reigns at 19, Bay at 11, Bishop Kenny at 11. Bishop Kenny really turned a lot of heads this year. Um, just in the fact that just I think they just kind of snuck up on a lot of teams. But Wakulla, man, that the great opportunity for the War Eagles to really make some noise. First round, uh, potential first round home game, and then being able to kind of be in the middle of the pack. That's really what you want, in my opinion. That kind of gets you in the best position to be able to make a deeper run into the playoffs because you just avoid some of the top dogs early on. So that is your Class 3A Region 1. Let's keep it rolling as we get down into Class 4A. I had a chance to see Choctaw. Man, this team is for real. This is a legit team sitting at 9-0. The Big Green Indian is back. A lot of what that program has done over the past several years is just kind of revitalize themselves, creating some separation between them and Niceville, who really was just a lopsided kind of rivalry for a minute. Man, Choctaw really in the driver's seat right now. It's them and St. Augie Dog sitting in at number 2, followed by Columbia out of Lake City. Had a tough loss against Bowles, but really playing Bowles might have just boosted things for them. Uh, if this holds, Columbia really, there's a complete cliff after the Tigers going into Ed White, almost a 10-point difference, 8-point difference between Columbia and Ed White. After that, you have Pine Forest and then Rickards. Rickards still sitting in really good position right now. The loss to Lincoln might affect them a little bit, but there's more than a single point that separates them and Booker T. Washington out of Pensacola, followed by Escambia, who would be your number 8 team. So Rickards, you're in. As of right now, the selection show may drop you down a little bit, but look for Rickards to play either Columbia or St. Augustine in the first round. Tough matchups, but you're in the playoffs.
If you could get Pine Forest, you would love it. That'd be actually a really good game, too. I think those teams are very similar this year. You would love if you could get Pine Forest when you look at a little above that threshold there. It's going to be a tough ride.
All right, that was 4A Region 1. Let's go ahead and talk about 5A Region 1. And this is where things get interesting because absent from this list, you have Mainland, Point of Vedra, Mosley at number 3, Beachside. And for those who aren't familiar, Beachside is one of the newer schools in the state of Florida in St. Johns County. Milton, who has put together a stellar season, followed by Niceville, then Middleburg, then Fleming Island. Noticeably absent are the Lincoln Trojan. They're sitting right there at number 9. So between Fleming Island and Lincoln is less than a 200th of a point. A single point separates the Trojans from Matanzas, who is sitting in at number 10. Lincoln is in the playoffs, so don't panic. They're in the playoffs by virtue of the district championship. Now, where will they be playing and, what's their first round matchup? That remains to be seen. But right now, Mainland is your top dog right now in 5A Region 1, followed by Point of Vedra. Really, for Mosley, this is an excellent draw for them. They're looking at a potential rematch, maybe against Niceville, who ended the season on somewhat of a high note. So this is one where you would hate to see, if I was Mosley, I would hate to play Niceville again. You get them at home, but man, I just would not want to see the Eagles again. Hopefully, Mosley will get the chance to draw either a Middleburg, but they have seen so far that district now has 3 teams in the playoffs. So Mosley, Milton, and Niceville all in. And they've all had a chance to play each other by virtue of being in the same district. it really comes down to where will the Trojans be headed to in for that opening first round, and that could make the difference between everything because Lincoln has already had a chance to play Nice. Point of Adria is kind of a common opponent of both of those teams. This is going to get interesting, y'all.
Man, like you said before, we in. And once you're in, you got a chance. Anything can happen. You don't care where you go once you get in. You want to play a team, but you eventually got to play better teams anyway. So might as well get it over with. I'm not
Sounds
coaching. I'm not coaching, so I can talk like that.
yeah. I mean, but you have a good point. I mean, this is a very interesting position that historically speaking, I'm not used to seeing Lincoln in where it's like, yes, you are district champs, but I'm not used to seeing you guys start the playoffs on the road. But those three right there, it's like, woof. And then of course to add on to that, Mosley with the potential, round two with Niceville. Remember, there's that famous saying, tough to beat the same team twice.
It is.
So man, this will be quite an interesting selection going on. I can't imagine being the committee right now, the headache that this must be causing them at the moment.
They really don't have a headache. It's the straight numbers. So
they love it.
They got us talking about them before they put them up. That's all they want.
They love it. Hands off. Let the computer do the work.
Yeah.
When you draw it up, you make your districts, or sorry, your regions, whatever we're doing now. Districts and regions. Some of them they're coming back, whatever. But this is what you want. And for the second consecutive year, Class 5A Region 1 is stealing the show. And it is high drama going into the last selection Sunday. There's going to be some movement, and you're going to get some shenanigans at play here. The numbers will be funky. For the Lincoln faithful, your golden ticket is not Fleming Island. Your golden ticket is not Middleburg. It's not Niceville. It's that team that's sitting up in the 5th seed right now, Milton. They suffered a loss. They will have the biggest change in win percentage. And then also incorporating some of that other strength of schedule stuff. When Lincoln brings now Rickards into their strength of schedule, we look beyond the Rickards component. And what Rickards does is they bring in Choctaw and they bring in Colquitt as we get to these tertiary statistical categories. And so while it doesn't look like Lincoln would jump into 7th, and I think you like the trip out to Jacksonville versus Ponte Vedra, you like that matchup better than Mainland, Milton is your golden ticket. Granted, probably getting the 8 seed.
Just remember, Jupe said it.
Yep, not us.
Coach said, lock it in. We both agree. Coach and I both agree that's what's going to happen. Lock it.
No.
It's going to be awesome. Once again, awesome region kind of down the stretch last 2 or 3 weeks. We're going to see some fun here. And I think anybody's got a shot at it too. You look at a 1-8 matchup, you're like, a lot of people are afraid of the 1 seed. Lincoln Mainland going to be pretty awesome. Whoever that 7 seed against Ponte Vedra is, like we said, a Niceville and Mosley round matchup.
Yeah.
Anybody's on the table here. I don't see a real big class system. Almost every other region we see a class system at play here. I really don't see it in 5A, Region 1 at least.
Yeah, one of the things about this is just the commonality between opponents. In 5A, especially in Region 1, if you're going to play somebody on your level, they're either right there in your backyard or you're going to play one of these guys. And so looking at Lincoln, they had the big win over Niceville earlier. Niceville also linking up against Mosley. Milton and Mosley locked horns earlier. This is just commonality of opponents, and I like to see the parity, but looking at the points, it's really just 1 point difference between each team. Mainland is 1 point above Ponte Vedra, Mosley 1 point behind Ponte Vedra, B-side a couple of points behind Mosley, so on and so forth. Lincoln really, honestly, I think it was just really the killer here was just the 2 losses between Godby and Trinity Christian that really just kind of upended some things and some of the momentum that they had. It's almost like, you want to be able to kind of rewind the clock a little bit, because I think if the whole way the point system works in your favor is that you play quality opponents, it just goes against you if you lose. So the system is the system in that, and in the fact that it is working to a degree, it just only works in your favor if you're winning. So with again, all questions will be answered during the selection show. Come tomorrow at noon. That's a Thursday at noon. We'll get to the selection show. But now let's go ahead and talk about what I like to call the main event. A lot of what we've seen here is really just a good showcase of where things stand in terms of all the classification. But for right now, let's go ahead and talk about the rule, because this one here has all the discussion as we round out the latter part of the show. Let's go ahead and untangle this mess. A very spirited discussion going on between Classic Country Radio and Will McLeod. Man, I appreciate y'all rocking out and hanging with the show for a little bit. To me, this is what it's all about right here. When you look at how the rule is really situated here at your top spot, Bluntstown, sitting there with a perfect 9-0 record. They've earned every bit of it. Right behind them, you have Hawthorne. They had a big win over Florida High. Chiefland's been a bit of a juggernaut. And if I'm not mistaken, Chiefland's only loss, I think Chiefland's only loss came to Baker County. So, and that was a 14-0 loss. Taylor County right behind them, their only loss came to Chiefland. So, and then moving into number 5, you have Pahokee, you have Lafayette, Williston at number 7, Baker at number 8, Madison County, the Cowboys sitting at number 9, and really in a spot where they can do a lot of damage in the first round. Chipley in at the number 10 spot, Fort Meade at 11, Liberty County, the Bulldogs, program in resurgence mode, sitting at number 12. Trenton, the Tigers at number 13. Your Sneeds Pirates, number 14. Branford at Buccaneers at number 15. And then Fort White, the Indians, sitting at number 16. On the outside looking in, Jay and Holmes County, followed by Port St. Joe at number 19, and at number 20, Cottondale. This is one of those where we have seen these teams play. A lot of the final 4 teams, we've seen a lot of these teams play, at least from 17 through 20. And the thing that's most interesting is that Holmes County, despite their last 2 losses against Opp out of Alabama, that's a 2-point loss. Their only significant loss came against Bluntstown in week number 9. That was a 42-20 affair or something like that. Everything else between Holmes County and everybody else, they're still a touchdown away from being what I would call a 9-1 record. So this is just one of those where it's just like, hey, losing at the wrong time to the kind of opponents that they have lost to. I wonder if the strength of schedule is really counting towards certain things, because they've played Chipley. They played a few teams, or should I say their signature win was against Chipley earlier in the year. And just when you see where Chipley's sitting at number 10, it just kind of doesn't feel fair. But again, three losses at a point or less really seems like, man, if you're talking about the Cinderella that got left out from the ball, it feels like it's happening to Holmes County more than anybody.
Well, that's why we play the season. You really can only blame one person, one team, and that's them. They lost some close games, and it's during the season. That's your playoff. You trying to get in. You do the best you can, and one thing that every year, somebody's going to be left out. You just don't want it to be you. And unfortunately, a good team Holmes County is a very good football team. They just had some bad luck at the beginning of the season, losing those 1 and 2 point games, and it came back to haunt them when it's coming for the playoffs. Because I'm sure they could knock off a couple of these schools that will make the playoffs because they're just that good. But it's unfortunate, and it's a lesson that you got to learn. You got to play your A game every week because you don't know what game is going to come back to hunt you, and it's especially on the point system. The old system where you had to beat, win your district, get in, that they got rid of that. It would take they could have took advantage of that, but it is a tough thing to pill to swallow. But I'm sure they will be in the invitational because they're just that good.
Will making bold predictions here.
Yeah, I was
Wow.
noticing that. Wow.
Will,
Very
I'm gonna have
bold.
to hold you to it. Yeah, you in it now, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah, for Holmes County, man, I have the utmost respect for this team. We've talked about all season long. They kind of remind me of home a bit. And I think when you look at the beginning of the season, man, you're right. They're a play or two or a win or two away from getting into the final spot for the state playoffs of the rural class division. But I am really looking forward to seeing what this team will do even in the Florida Invitational tournament for the rural division, because I mean, with the record and points and stuff that they have now, it could possibly host a tournament game at home or two. So I think that's something that we'll wait and see tomorrow when the selections are made as well for the Florida Invitational tournaments. And that also goes for all the other teams we've talked about too that are on the outside of the bubble looking in. A lot of the schools in our region who are 1A, 2A, 3A are also going to play each other, and any schools that are 4 and 5A are also possibly going to run into each other in those tournaments in the new extended versions of the Florida Invitational. But yeah.
Yeah, the back at the bottom of this bracket seems like it's pretty locked, and unfortunately for Holmes, it looks like outside looking in. All the teams above them had not only won but had pretty solid wins, and you're probably going to see a lot of things stay put here. Sneeds and Brantford, maybe Fort White, if they get a huge jump in with the strength of schedule, maybe Fort White moves into the 15 over Brantford, but it feels like this is kind of what the flow is going to be. 13 through 16 seems pretty locked now, especially with Holmes County losing. Had they beaten Op, different conversation. I think Holmes County probably gets in, but I think that's going to be the difference. And obviously, like you said, Mark, kind of looking back, that real interesting corridor is kind of that Madison County, Chipley, Fort Meade, Liberty. That's where the majority of the movement feels like it's going to be situated here for the rural. But I think ultimately that's what we want is, we're not rooting against teams missing the playoffs, but you have an in-demand product. It's very concentrated. They get half the playoff teams that any other classification does, and good teams are going to get left out, and you want them wanting more. And so from the neutral perspective, you got 16 really good teams, and it's a concentrated, heavy hitter situation. And so that's why it's going to be so entertaining and why we've been so amped about it. And we may be the biggest flag carriers of the Royal classification statewide. Feels like nobody wants to talk about statewide,
Yeah,
but it's going to be
I
awesome.
absolutely love talking rural football because I mean, look at the point differential between these teams. Like you're between right now between Pahokee and Lafayette, there's less than 500ths of a point.
Mm-hmm.
Between right here, you got Madison, Chipley, and Fort Meade. There's less than a tenth of a point. 7.9, 7.6, 7.4. And then your bottom two, you got Liberty and Trenton. All of these are great matchups potentially. And we just saw a nice preview of what this is going to look like with Lafayette linking up with Chipley. If you want to know what the rural playoffs is going to look like, go back and watch that game. That'll tell you everything you need to know. You're going to see dual threat quarterbacks. You're going to see teams that are used to putting up 350 yards on the ground. You're going to see offenses that are going to be able to run the ball. You're going to see offenses that are going to be able to run the ball. You're going to see offenses that are going to be able to run the ball. You're going to see offenses that are going to be able to run the ball. You're going to see offenses that are going to be able to run the ball. You're going to see offenses that are going to be able to run the ball. You're going to see offenses that are going to be able to run the ball. You're going to see offenses that are going to be able to run the ball. You're going to see offenses that are going to be able to run the ball. You're going to see offenses that are going to be able to run the ball. You're going to see offenses that are going to be able to run the ball. You're going to see offenses that are going to be able to run the ball. You're going to see offenses that are going to be able to run the ball. You're going to see offenses that are going to be able to run the ball. You're going to see offenses that are going to be able to run the ball. You're going to see offenses that are going to be able to run the ball. that are used to hanging 60 and 70 points per game. You're going to see defenses. I think we've had 5 or 6 teams from the area that have pitched like 4 or 5 shutouts during the year. You're going to see all the dynamics broken down right here in the first round, and it's really going to be probably your most entertaining brand. We talked about the toughness of Class 3A, 4A, 5A, and looking at from top to bottom. There's just huge separations between the first 3 teams, and then everything falls off a cliff for teams 5 through 8 or 4 through 8. But not in the rural. In the rural, everything is jam packed right there. And then don't forget, this gets broken into 2 brackets. So you have one side of the bracket and you have the other. So it's really tough to say once you see how things are going to be situated, because you're going to get essentially what will be a 1 seed on one bracket and a 1 seed on the other bracket. So everything will be revealed tomorrow at noon. I'm probably gonna, since I have some free time, I might actually go live for a little bit just to see, just get some instant reactions right there. But this is going to be essentially probably your best, most entertaining bracket right here in the rural classification. We've been pumping it all season long, but man, Bluntstown right now, your front runner, and really, everything kind of clips off at Fort White. And we'll just kind of see what shakes out here in the selection show tomorrow. But that will do it for what, our rough math for the playoff predictions that we have. We'll get everything official tomorrow per the FHSAA. We'll know what's going on also with the Florida Invitational Tournament as well. And we'll definitely see a huge entertaining playoff matchup, where Scylla Christian will be heading down to the Central Florida, Orlando area to take on Mount Dora Christian in a really big SSAA matchup. And so, yeah, great football still on the horizon. It's going to be an entertaining November. The drive to the state championship is already underway, and we'll find out where everybody's going to be positioned tomorrow during the FHAA selection show. I might jump into being on hand for that one. But either way, we'll be back next Wednesday with another edition of the Extra Point to talk all about it. Man, and for everybody who's getting ready to gear up for the second season, enjoy the bye week. It is the quiet and the calm before the storm, but everything gets underway next week as we will have all of the first round games broken down. Again, if you don't see your team inside the top 8 of any of these regions, don't fret. There's still a good chance they're going to be playing postseason ball because the invitational tournament will be going on. And also another bit of news coming out from the state. They're going to redo all of this. They're going to redo all of this again coming up shortly. There was a huge vote. And so, man, for some of us, we roll our eyes. For other of us, it's like, all right, here we go again. But either way, as the kids say, 6-7. Or as my kids have been saying, 6-7. It's going to be a great, great first round matchup. I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, this has been the regular season finale of the Extra Point. For everybody who's been rocking with us, we appreciate it. We'll be back next Wednesday for everything broken down. And that will do it for this week's edition of the Extra Point. We'll catch everybody next Wednesday. For the entire gang, Coach Cofield, Eddie Quincus Jr., and Andrew Jupe, I'm Mark Adams. This is the Extra Point. We'll see everybody next Wednesday.